Can I just ask for all the cameras to make sure that our interpreter is in frame? Okay, everyone ready? Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sarah Stewart-Black. I'm the Director of the Ministry of Civil Defence and Emergency Management. The purpose of today's stand-up is to provide you with an operational update of the all-of-government response to Friday's tragic events in Christchurch. I'm joined today by Ashley Bloomfield from the Ministry of Health, Stephen Crombie from the Ministry of Social Development, Deborah Roche from ACC, and Iona Holstead from the Ministry of Education. Can I begin by extending my personal sympathies to the families of the victims and to everyone in the local community and further afield who has been affected by this horrific tragedy. In the wake of the terror attack in Christchurch, we have seen an outpouring of grief from both here and overseas. The victims and families have received support in many forms, and that is truly appreciated. We now need to balance this with the victims and their loved ones' privacy. As the bodies are released to families for burial, they deserve our respect and privacy to mourn their loved ones, including from the media. We hope people can understand and respect this. The National Crisis Management Centre has been stood up to support the national security system in leading the wider response from government agencies. This allows the police to focus on their core duties. The full resources of the government are dedicated to this response and have mobilised their resources. This includes, but is certainly not limited to, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Social Development, ACC, and the Ministry of Education, who are here with me today, Police, the Intelligence Community, Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet, the Ministry of Civil Defence and Emergency Management, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade, the Department of Internal Affairs, the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment, the Defence Force, New Zealand Customs and our transport agencies. This is the first of what will be a series of regular stand-ups with relevant agencies who are involved in the response. I'll provide you with a brief operational overview and then hand over to my colleagues who will provide overviews of their activities. Please note I will not be providing any or covering any police matters, as this is best addressed by them. Central government agencies with a focus on supporting communities are working together to understand and assess community complexities and needs. This requires specialist expertise and consideration, and work is being progressed as a priority for all agencies. The Officials for Domestic and External Security Coordination, ODESC Committee, is meeting regularly to ensure that the response is coordinated across agencies. This is a committee made up of government agency chief executives. An all-of-government team led by the Ministry of Civil Defence and Emergency Management has been established at the Christchurch Justice and Emergency Services Precinct to prioritise on-the-ground support to agencies. At the community level, a community support hub is currently operating at the Hagley Community College. The support hub will be moving today to the Canterbury Horticultural Centre at 57 Riccarton Avenue near the Cricket Oval at Hagley Park. And that's so that the Hagley College can reopen on Tuesday. The hub includes representatives from ACC, the New Zealand Red Cross, Canterbury Civil Defence Emergency Management Group, the Ministry of Social Development, Canterbury District Health Board and Victim Support. The Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment's visa services are facilitating emergency visas for families of the injured and those that have passed away. MFAT, Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade, are communicating with international partners about information regarding the attack and providing travel advice and information on accommodation and venues where visitors can attend to pay their respects and sympathies. The footage related to the attack has been classed as objectionable, so it is an offence under New Zealand law to possess, share and/or host it. I understand the Department of Internal Affairs is planning to issue an updated media statement around digital safety, so more information can be found there. Public condolence books are available at Parliament and the National Library of New Zealand in Molesworth Street in Wellington. The National Library is open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday and 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturday. The plan from here is I will take questions at the end but introduce each speaker, and then we'll have a period for questions. So can I firstly hand over to Ashley Bloomfield for the Ministry of Health, who will provide an update. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Well, kia ora koutou, and like Sarah, I would like to start by extending my deepest sympathies and strong support for the families, the victims, and of course the Muslim community in Christchurch and around New Zealand. I also want to acknowledge and pay tribute to the work of people in the health sector in Christchurch, the first responders from St John's, and the amazing staff, both clinical and non-clinical, at the District Health Board at Christchurch Hospital, who have done nothing short of an outstanding job in dealing not just with the injured, but with their families and loved ones and friends. There are two parts really that are important for their response in terms of psychosocial support. First of all, local support on the ground, and that's being led by the District Health Board. They have excellent services there on the ground and are fully involved in that coordination hub with other government departments. The second part of the response is at a national level, and as you'll be aware, we have been directing people to use the 1737 mental health helpline, which can be phoned or texted, or can also be accessed via web chat. You'll see I've got the badge here, so the number's easy to remember. And what I can say is that there has been a significant increase in use of that line from people both in Canterbury and from around the country. And that's great to see. And that includes a wide range of people, including individuals who were directly caught up in the attacks in one or other of the mosques, through to ordinary New Zealanders around the rest of the country. So just to give you an idea of the volume of work that the mental health helpline is dealing with, yesterday they had 544 contacts from around the country. About 60% of those calls were answered within 20 seconds, and the average length of those calls was 38 minutes. So these are not just fleeting interventions, they are substantial discussions and providing real support to people both in Canterbury and in wider New Zealand. And the other part of that wider psychosocial support is the resources that are available on both the Ministry of Health website and on the 1737 website. And this is really helpful information that is there to support people really in terms of self-care, but also some excellent resources to assist parents in having conversations with their children. And that's been the most widely accessed page on the Ministry of Health website. So it's great to see parents accessing that information, which is robust, evidence-based, it's been developed by clinicians, and I'd strongly commend those resources to the people of New Zealand, and thank you for your assistance in getting that information out. And I guess finally, it would be remiss of me not to acknowledge all of you from the media in the room, and just remind you too, and your colleagues, to be aware of the stress or your own responses to the events, and to look after yourselves. And I strongly encourage you to do that. Finally, Canterbury DHB will be issuing its own update presently about the clinical condition of the injured people who are still in hospital, and I point you to their release, which, if it hasn't gone out, is due out at any moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ashley. Can I now pass over to Deborah Roche from ACC?
Good afternoon. On behalf of myself and ACC, we would like to extend our deepest condolences to the victims, their families, the community and everyone in Christchurch and indeed around New Zealand. Since the incident, ACC has set up a dedicated team in Christchurch to support the victims and families of this incident. We have also increased our frontline resources to ensure that urgent help is provided to families as and when they need them, and where we can, we are working proactively with colleagues across government and in the local Christchurch community to support people seamlessly behind the scenes. I will just take you through now a series of what we are offering to these people, because we have received a large number of requests about that, in order to provide clarity and to let you know that on our website we have a fact sheet that has been translated into a number of languages, and we have set up a dedicated 0800 number, that is 0800 080 273, for people internationally, that will ring through to our dedicated Christchurch team of experts to help people work through their entitlements. Importantly, for everybody with injuries in the shootings and the families of those who were killed, you are entitled to receive support for ACC whether you, irrespective of your residency status. So anyone who has been working in New Zealand will be entitled to weekly compensation while you recover. There are also a range of supports such as home help, transportation assistance and childcare where this is required. For all those with acute medical injuries, we are working with the District Health Board and providers around the area and at Starship to support these victims and their families. For families of those who have lost, people who have lost their lives, we will provide a funeral grant and a survivor grant for partners and families. There is also additional support where there are children and other dependents. Our team in Christchurch is connected with the police family liaison officers who are directing victims and families to work with us. We are fast-tracking all claims so that there are no delays to any weekly compensation or other payments, and we have sent 2 specialists from our accidental death unit down to Christchurch to work with victims. In terms of what is available from us to support families and victims, we pay a tax-free funeral grant of up to $6,219, and there is additional $4,000 of funding from the Ministry of Justice. We will be working with funeral directors behind the scenes in order to support this so that it is seamless for families. This money can also be used for repatriation purposes. We also pay a one-off tax-free survivors grant to the deceased partner, children and dependents. Approximately $6,600 for partners, $3,300 for children, and if the child or dependent is under 16, this money will go to their parent or caregiver. If the deceased had children living in New Zealand, those caring for the children can also receive weekly payments to help with childcare. If the deceased was earning an income in New Zealand when they died, families may be able to get compensation of up to 80% of their earnings to a certain level. We will keep making payments to partners for 5 years, and where there are children up until the age that the child turns 18. And if a child is in full-time study, this can continue until they are 21 years of age. If someone lives overseas, they can still get these payments provided they have a New Zealand bank account and an Inland Revenue Department number. So if I could encourage people to please call our number 0800 080 273, or if you go to our website, fact sheets with all that information is available to support victims and families. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I now introduce Stephen Crombie from the Ministry of Social Development? Thanks, Stephen.
Kia ora koutou. On behalf of the whole MSD family, I'd like to express our condolences and sympathies to the families of the victims and all of those who are involved in that tragic event. Our role as MSD is to help with the immediate needs of those affected, and particularly things like food grants, petrol, clothing, medical fees and prescriptions. Over the weekend, we've ran extended hours for our contact centres to enable people to contact us as soon as possible. We received, to date, 63 calls for assistance from individuals, and we assisted with money for food, petrol and clothing, and we of course expect that to rise considerably. In Christchurch, we've set up a specialist team in both our Linwood and Riccarton service centres. So they have the necessary skills to deal with the Muslim community and have access to people with the necessary language skills, as there are multiple language and nationalities involved. But anyone can come into a service centre throughout the country and ask for assistance, because it's not only the people directly involved in Christchurch, but of course there's a much broader community across New Zealand who are impacted. We also have our contact centre, which is open from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m, 0800 559 009, and that's available for people to come and contact us. Our key messages for people to contact us directly, or be encouraged to contact us, and we'll be available to assist where required. Thank you.
Thank you. And Iona Holstead from the Ministry of Education.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Can I, with my colleagues and on behalf of the Ministry of Education, also share with you our sympathy for the families directly affected by these shocking events and those who are indirectly affected by them. I'd also like to thank the Ministry of Education staff, particularly in Christchurch during the time of the lockout, who were working directly with schools who were looking after children at that time. I also want to thank the people who have worked over the weekends, both at the Ministry of Education, Tertiary Education Commission, New Zealand Qualifications Authority and Education New Zealand, to make contact with tertiary providers and 2,500 schools and over 5,000 early learning services to offer assistance. In today's briefing, I'm going to focus on what we're doing with schools and early learning services and just give you an update on what we've been doing today. 62 schools have so far, and ECE services have so far rung us to discuss support, and we've prioritised 20 for support today. These are schools that have a connection either to children who are victims and or parents who are victims or have strong connections to the Muslim community. Of those 20, we have now completed 8 visits and a further 10 are underway now. We're awaiting confirmation from 2 schools about appropriate timing. 5 ECE services are a priority 1 for us today. 4 are currently being visited. The 5th we're keeping in contact with. It is not yet appropriate to visit. Overall, I can say that schools and ECEs are calm and focused on supporting students and their families. The kinds of things that we've done this morning have provided support to teachers about how to talk to children, debriefed with teaching and leadership teams about events during the lockdown, provided translated parent advice sheets, and kept messages simple and consistent. These are shared messages across health and other services that are also being supporting schools and ECEs. We've provided cultural support advice and support to help engage families back into school and ECEs. Additional staffing requested by schools are minimal at this time, but we're responding as necessary. Maintaining close contact with 11 schools and further visits is likely. Our focus is immediately on Christchurch and then on Dunedin, but these offers of service are across the country, and we are getting expressions of interest for that support from a number of regions. The support that we are making available to Christchurch will continue for as long as it is necessary and will be made available to the rest of the country as necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I open for questions?
What exactly is the support being offered to schools?
We have traumatic incident teams They comprise people who are trained in understanding the impacts of trauma and understanding how behaviour is likely to change as a result of trauma, which of course is never consistent. People respond to it differently. And they're particularly skilled in understanding how to respond to those behavioural and psychological changes. And they're able to connect teachers and schools with services as they need them to provide counselling or other psychosocial support. Often the traumatic incident teams work with other professionals such as psychologists and social workers, education advisors, and obviously in schools as teams with teams of teachers.
Sarah, sorry, can you just step us through the national security terror threat, what high means and when it's likely to drop down, and what factors are we looking for?
I think that's probably a better question answered by the police at their stand-up this afternoon.
Just on the 1737 number, you said that there have been 544 contacts. What's usual in terms of that?
So that's about 5 times the usual volumes, and just got some latest figures you might have seen passed forward to me. So by 2 o'clock today, just over 300 contacts again. And the good thing is whenever there's publicity like this, or when the PM talks about the number, then there is an upsurge in calls, and they are staffed up to accommodate and respond to those calls.
So for the contacts, not phone calls?
It's a mix of phone calls, texts and web chat.
And the 38-minute response time, is that the average length of time for a phone call?
Sorry, so the response time was, the 38 minutes is the average of a phone session, yes.
Is there more staff on hand already for that?
Absolutely, and in fact a number of organisations have made their staff available to support, because the support can be provided off-site and be done to anyone with a telephone and a computer. They're well rehearsed at surging up capacity if needed, and they've also reached out to organisations with counsellors of the ethnicities and that have been affected by the attacks, and also those from a Muslim faith. So they're able to respond to a wide range of callers.
ACC, will families proactively be contacted and informed of what they're entitled to?
When people are injured, the claim is registered within our system, and then we can work with victims and their families to have them know the full suite of what's available for them.
Will there be measures made to ensure that, especially people who are not so familiar with New Zealand systems and language, to ensure that they are, taking what they're entitled to?
Absolutely, we can guarantee that. We are working with the Christchurch Community Hub in the response, or the all of government response, and with our fact sheets that are available and the 0800 number for both domestic and international availability to help people understand that, and we also have translation available. We're working on that as well. Thank you.
With the support services in Christchurch, given that that's already a lot of traumatised people, even from the earthquakes and things, will there be plans to put more resources for mental health services and things long term?
Yes, we're expecting to have to provide additional support, especially over the next 6 to 8 weeks, and then over the longer term. It's fair to say that there is already additional mental health services in Canterbury in a range of settings, schools, community and other, and so we're well positioned to provide the support to the wider community. I've had over the weekend teleconferences with all district health boards twice, and they are standing ready to provide staff to support as required over coming weeks.
Can you give us an idea of staff that come into Christchurch around the country, not just in mental health but in other capacities?
Actually, there have been no additional medical or mental health staff as of yet gone into Christchurch. In fact, in terms of the response to the injuries, the DHB was able to accommodate and cope with that themselves. And any additional support around mental health, we are working with them at the moment to see what those needs might be and when, so that will be over coming weeks, but nothing at this point.
Okay, if there's no further questions, can I actually just acknowledge the media You're such an important part of any response effort in terms of the ability to be able to channel key public information out to those who need to understand how to keep themselves and their families safe, but also in terms of the assistance that's now available. We really appreciate the fact that you're providing both obviously TV, online, social media, print updates. So can I just acknowledge that you're part of this response too and how much we appreciate that. So thank you.